Good afternoon. This week on the big show, it's been a busy week as we say goodbye to James Caan. Prepare for the release of the 29th film from the MCU, Thor, Love and Thunder, and talk about the trailer release for The Woman King. Charles Kirkland Jr. and I will discuss these topics and more all on episode 506 of Keeping It Real with FilmGordon. Let's go. All right, and welcome to the latest episode of Keeping It Real with FilmGordon. I am Tim Gordon. That's Charles Kirkland Jr. I don't know what's going on over there. Charles he feels lethargic today. I'm not getting my Charles Kirkland infusion and energy today. Like, what is going on with the Chuck wagon? Pass the Chuck. Charles in charge. What's happening?
Every time you bring me into the show, that you know that when you start recording, that little screen pops up, says this thing is being recorded, and you either click got it or leave meeting. And I'm like, shouldn't there be something like in betweens, like, okay, whatever. I mean, all right. So that's where I am today. I'm kind of in an okay, whatever mood today.
You're in a whatever mood. In the middle of what I call Dragonfly Summer. I always love using that phrase because that's one of my favorite summer songs. In the middle of summer madness.
What you know about Michael Franks? What you know about Michael Franks, for real?
Well, you know, a lot, but we're not going to talk about Michael Franks on this show. So, hey, man, so first, before we get into the show, man, what's going on with you? Are you good?
I'm pretty good. You know, life is life. And so, you know, I've talked to you before, you know, going through some things with the family, but I will be in New York tomorrow to experience the big city, the Big Apple, and you know, that'll be fun, I suppose.
Got it.
But we got this little thing called the Lakefront Film Festival that I've been doing a lot of work with lately. So, you know, things are busy.
Yes, and you notice I'm not even wearing our own film festival shirt. I'm wearing a shirt from another festival. Note to self, watch this, note to self, create your own gear, which for reasons that are obvious to Charles and I can't happen in the next couple of weeks. But we'll have an announcement about that stuff. But yes, to Charles's point, I'm glad you brought that up. The third annual Lakefront Film Festival, which I am executive director. Charles Kirkland is one of our programmers. Tickets go on sale on Monday. We release the festival lineup. So if you're sitting at home and you're unaware of what we're discussing, you can just go to lakefrontfilmfest.com. The entire lineup is up. Over 50 films this year. We have several other surprises and things that we will announce as we move closer to the festival, as we look to secure, Charles, finally, whatever's going to open and close the festival, what secret film is going to be a part of the festival, which individuals, which we can't announce right now, that we're still talking to and negotiating with, will be a part of the festival. So I think this part of the festival, I will just say as an aside, this is the third go around we've done it, Charles, and that I thought it would get easier trying to secure these last couple of elements every year as we started planning. And that is not the case, brother. We're going to always be on hold waiting on these last elements to come. Is that so? Talk about that, Charles.
It seems no matter how we plan it, it always comes down to the last couple of weeks. We're trying to cram things in, and every year we say we're going to do better next year, and every year it's the same thing. Some things just keep getting there. And I don't know if it's good or bad, but it is what it is.
Well, I think what it is, to be perfectly honest, and I'll just say this. I mean, you can talk about planning. Planning is great. And to our point, I think we've met every timeline. The films got announced when they were supposed to be announced. The site got updated with all the information when it was supposed to happen. But the dynamics that have everything to do with major studios that are trying to make sure their films will work for our festival, or it's studios that don't want to work with our festival, that decision always happens late. The talent aspect is already sort of kind of locked in. We just don't want to announce it yet. We'll probably wait until next week. And then, Charles, I got to get with you because I think I want to add one more heavy hitter to the festival. And I think we've got to have a discussion about who we should reach out to in order to make that happen. So I have a feeling that the festival is going to be really, really nice. And I will also say, no disrespect to any other year, but I really, really like our slate of films this year. You and I have been talking about this slate for several months now, that we've been looking at these films and, sizing these films up and bringing films in that may have played at other major film festivals. So I like our films this year. And then also the last thing I'll say before I move on is that also remember, Charles, this is the first year that we brought in a 9-person grand jury for our film festival. So you've got a bunch of either film critics, film festival professionals, and industry professionals who are all participating in the judging of the films that are eligible for festival awards this year. And Charles, to put a cap on it, you did promise that the audience will have an ability this year to pick an audience award winner this year. Am I correct?
That is correct. This year there will be audience voting. So it's already enabled. So whenever they play the film after the film shows, there'll be a little clip for them to rate what they think of that film.
Right. And then, like I said, we'll have other surprises and things that we'll announce, but let's put it to you like this, Charles. And I say this, and you have heard me say this. I feel much better about this year's festival than I felt about any of the other ones. I'm not sweating this year. I think, like I said, a lot of the things we had to learn when we did a virtual festival last year, a lot of those growing pains helped us this year. The hybrid aspect, as I said, is also a very nice touch. God willing, I hope that we are much in person next year, but we still will keep a virtual aspect because there are people who are watching our podcast today who may live outside the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area and may not be able to attend, but you can still be a part of what it is that we're doing in the nation's capital moving forward. So as I said, we'll have a lot more information in the next coming weeks.
To that, I say for all those people who are living outside the Washington, D.C. area, we have hotels here. Come join us in the festival. You're missing out on the experience by not being here. So next year when we go live, we want you to be here. We love you being on the internet, watching it virtually, but the experience that we have here in Washington, D.C. is going to be like none other. So get yourself here. That's what, and we've more than doubled the number of films that we've had from last year to this year. So I'm very happy in what we have. And like you said, the selection is outstanding. So I'm ready to go.
Nothing more to add to that, man. So the Lakefront Film Festival, for more information, lakefrontfilmfest.com. And you will see what's going on with LFF 22. Hashtag Lakefront Film Festival, having a lot of fun. I feel bad now that I'm wearing somebody else's shirt, man. Spend all that time talking about Lakefront. All right, man. So let's jump into it, man, and switch gears. A couple of days ago, early this week, as we always talk about, I get email alerts, and the alert came through that actor James Caan, Academy Award nominee for his performance as Sonny Corleone in The Godfather, of course, The Thief, another movie that he was really good in, Misery, alongside Kathy Bates, Elf, a movie he'd done, passed away at the age of 82 years old. It marks for me, because we always talk on the show about The Godfather, that this is the second cast member, I want to say, because Fredo was played by, I forget what his name was. God, I hate when I have
what? You forgot somebody in The Godfather?
Oh, man, because okay, I was told I've been having these lapses of trying to, because my brain is trying to maintain a lot of information, and it's like, yeah, man, some stuff will slip through. John Cazale, who passed away years ago, who played Fredo. And then there have been some other members, but I'm talking about the immediate Corleone family. You know, you had Al Pacino, of course. Talia Shire is still here with us. Of course, Marlon Brando left in 1990. So as the years go on, and we're talking about 50 years, The Godfather we celebrated earlier this year, you know, of course, there's going to be attrition. You're going to lose some people, but the story in the film and these performances that James Caan specifically gave will live on, man. This guy, as an actor, man, he won 4 Golden Globes, or excuse me, was nominated for 4 Golden Globes, an Emmy, and an Oscar. Got a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame back in 1978. Caan, man, was a hell of an actor, man. His son, Scott Caan, is still out there, you know, giving off his father's energy. Charles, anything jumps out at you about the late James Caan?
Wow, you know, the thing that you didn't mention, which I thought would have been where you let off, is his
Brian's song,
his breakthrough performance. That, I mean, if it wasn't, I don't know, the performance he turned in that movie, which was a year before The Godfather. I mean, he'd done a lot of work before that, but I think that's where we really started recognizing who he was and what he could do. And then he got the Godfather after that. So him and Bernie Casey in that story was an incredible movie. If you've never seen Brian's Song, and it was a TV movie, wasn't it?
It was a TV movie. You know, yeah. I never forget Billy D. Williams in that famous scene at the very end of Brian's Song, where, you know, Brian is really, really sick and he's accepting some award, and he goes, tonight, will you get on your knees and say a prayer for Brian? I mean, it's not funny, but I'm just saying that was my impersonation of Mr. Smooth Billy D. Williams, which is not a good impression at all. But James Caan and Billy D. Williams had wonderful chemistry in the true story of Brian Piccolo, who died of was it leukemia?
I believe it was leukemia. Yeah, it was some blood disorder or something.
Yeah. It says the rabbit cancer.
But it's the real story.
Gail Sayers, Gail Sayers and Brian Piccolo.
Right.
Yep. So James Caan, man, wonderful actor, man. Of course, his work at The Godfather is what everybody thinks of. And the first thing I thought about when I heard the news was that scene where he was driving in the car to come beat up, his sister's man who had beat her down, and they set him up and shot him up on the causeway. And I'm like, man, we lost Sonny again, man. Man. But James Caan, man, 82 years old, man. I mean, tributes are going up. Oh, and I also forgot Rollerball. I remember watching that from 1975.
I was going to say, make him know it's not the remake, the original Rollerball.
The original Rollerball needed to be remade because, of course, no disrespect to James Caan, it was about the technology of 1975, which was different. But when they remade it, they didn't make it better. They just made it look better. But I think they forgot the story and they concentrated on the rollerball aspect.
The rollerball, right.
Yeah. So Thief, of course, we talked about that. Him in Gardens of Stone, which I thought was an amazing performance by him in 1987. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that Caan did. I remember him in Alien Nation, but not really. I mean,
Alien Nation, yeah, I remember that.
Not really, but Misery, man. Did Kathy Bates, man, when she broke his ankle, when he was tripped, I was like,
and they showed it. That was the thing about it, was that you actually saw the ankle turn sideways after she hit it. It was like, wow, that was incredible. That was an incredible scene, and put Kathy Bates on the map, man. What a performance that was as a struggling writer trying to get out another story. I love that movie.
Now, a lot of people may not remember Caan in The Way of the Gun from 2000, which was a huge ensemble film. And, so he had a small role in that. And then Elf, of course. That was that was a pretty interesting Caan performance in that film. And of course, I don't remember his voice work in Cloudy with a chance of meatballs, but yeah, man, James Caan. I mean, the films, I think for the most part, like you said, Brian Song, him in The Godfather, and then a smaller part he had in Godfather 2. Thief, really, really well done film. Gardens of Stone. Alienation, on Alienation.
If you want to talk about a TV series, I think what was the one that he did when he was the guy in Las Vegas? Shoot, now I can't think of it. Gee whiz! But he was a casino owner in Las Vegas, and he kind of like a good fellow, I suppose. What was the name of that show? Oh, I can't think of it. It'll come to me. What'd you say?
Vegas?
Oh, you know what? I think it was Vegas. Las Vegas.
Vegas had Dan Ulrich back in the day. Was that?
No, not Vegas. We're talking about more recently.
It might not have been that one, but
I think it was called Las Vegas in like it was like in the early 2000s.
Got you. All right. Well, like I said, man, I knew somebody had asked me, have we talked about James Caan? Immensely intense, as I remember, man, his work. And I mean, his work in The Godfather, it was intense, but a lot of Caan's work was that. And that's not a knock. I mean, it was, every actor has their own style. And he built a career that, despite the fact that we've lost him, and there might not be like 12 or 15 great James Caan's performances, you only need to be really good at about 3 or 4 things, man. And he was really good in 3 or 4 different things, which is why his name rings out and people respect and acknowledge his passing, because, it was significant. He didn't have a super duper career, but he was really impactful in the things that he was in. So rest in paradise to James Caan, gone at the age of 82. All right, Charles. So anything else on that, man?
Nope, that's pretty much it.
All right, sir. So let us move on, man. And, on this show, we don't talk a lot about trailers, because trailers drop all the time, man, But there was a trailer that dropped this week, man, that I must admit, I watched it 4 times in a row because I was like, whoa, that's pretty good. And the film that we're talking about, which drops on September the 16th, is from director Gina Prince Bythewood, 3-time Black Reel Award winning director. Her latest film is called The Woman King. And this is based on a true story of the leader of the female warriors of Dahomey. Viola Davis plays the general, who, for all I know about the film is from what I watched in the trailer, it feels like there's some sort of conflict with the king, played by John Boyega, or the prince, or whatever he's playing, and these warriors, in the narration at the beginning, we are planning to go to war, but we have a surprise that they did not encounter. And the surprise, of course, are these female warriors led by Viola Davis. And Woman King, it looks real good, Charles. It looks like I'm not, again, I say this every year and you hear me say it. There's this award called the Black Reel Awards, right? That we work on, right? And there's certain films that I'm like, that's going to be one that we're going to be talking about a lot. So I'm not really trying to talk about it because we haven't seen it. I just know who's cast in it. But Charles, do you have a feeling that The Woman King is going to be in conversation 6 or 7 months from now?
This is one of those films that I think is going to give us a lot of Black pride, if I want to use a bad analogy or a bad word for it. But it reminded me a lot of the Dora Milaje in Black Panther, but this is real. This really happened. These are real people. This is really outstanding. And Viola Davis is always powerful in what she does, but this is a different type of power. I mean, she has an acting presence, but now she's in this film, she's got a physical presence that we haven't seen before from her. And I'm totally taken with the whole concept of this film. So I think, yes, so this is going to be one of those films that people are going to be talking about for a while. I remember someone was saying, I'm worried about the Black Reel Awards because, there doesn't seem to be a lot of quality films coming out, and what's going on this year. And I just I always say, just wait. We haven't got there yet. And so we got The Woman King coming out. We got Nope coming out. We got a lot of good stuff. There's a bright light at the end of the tunnel for African-American films this year. We'll see how it goes. I think Woman King is the one to beat, though, just from the trailer.
I don't know who said any of that, man, but you let them know that you just put them on notice that there's some stuff coming down the pike.
There's stuff coming.
So here's the thing. You said you brought up what I wanted to say, and I wanted to hear your whole discussion before I jumped in. I think the thing that's interesting about watching this, because you talked about Black Pride, is I remember back in 2018, or was it Black Panther came out 2019 or 18? When Black Panther came out, Black Panthers swelled so many chests of African Americans around the country and the world, I may add, with pride, or Africans around the world with pride, that people went back to see this movie 6, 7, 8 times at the theater. People couldn't get enough of watching Black Panther on the big screen. And this movie, to me, out Wakanda. I saw this movie, I was like, now, wow, Ryan Coogler, man, what you gonna do? Soldier inside Wakanda advantage by using based on a true story. So trying to tell you, like, your little film is cool, right? And this is part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but this is based on real events. Even though your movie is kind of based on real events, this one is really based on real events. I'm just having fun. Ryan Coogler, you do what you do. I have faith in you that Black Panther 2 is going to be fine. But as you know, as a chief instigator, these are shots across the bow, man. Pow, pow. The woman.
I mean, we do have Black Panther 2 coming out at the end of the year. And what kind of bar is being set by The Woman King in September? People are going to say, hey, what's going on here? Who's
man, the Black Panther 2's bar was set by Black Panther 1. And, there's a whole, the Ruth E. Carter's costume work, Hannah Beachler's production design, Ryan Coogler and Robert Joe Cole's screen, and of course, the late, great Chadwick Boseman, who, headlined that film. It's a huge, huge hole missing out of that film by not having Chadwick Boseman. So I am very interested because I know going forward, even before he got the green light to make this movie, that they had to present a story that kind of addressed that, talked about the where T'Challa is, missing T'Challa, honoring T'Challa, and then giving us some other person who can step into the breach. And whether it's Shuri, whether it's M'Baku, I don't know what they're gonna do. I'm waiting with bated breath like everybody else. But we do know that Namor, who is the Aquaman of the MCU, will be the villain in this one, from what I understand. And that's all I know. So I don't know anything else. I don't have any inside information. I haven't gotten a call from Wilson Morales, who normally will call me up and tell me stuff. And I'm like, I don't want to know. Don't want to know. But yeah, Charles.
But there is an issue here, and I'm gonna say this, and I hope that it does not come to fruition. But
now, wait a minute. You talking about from a comic book standpoint?
No,
okay.
I'm talking about in a real life standpoint. As far as The Woman King goes, I am afraid, hopefully, that people will not say, "Oh, this is just Black Panther redone," and not go see this film. because it does have a lot of similar feel to it, that there is the propensity that somebody might say, I've seen this before in Black Panther, I don't need to see this story as well. And I just want to remind people, this is the true story. But Black Panther was a comic book story. I think we should invest in our stories, and this is one of them. So don't shortchange it saying, oh, this is just a redo of Black Panther. This is a new story, a true story, and it needs to be seen.
Well, I'm going to tell you this, man. I'll make it even simpler than that. Black films matter, right? If Ryan Coogler has a film, go out and see that one. Gina Prince Bythewood has a film, go out and support that one. This is not one versus the other. I told you earlier, I'm instigating and just having fun. Go see both these movies and go see them multiple times. The Woman King, I'm excited. I think it's a really good movie. Last year when, what is his name? James Samuels put out The Harder They Fall. We loved that movie. I saw it multiple times, but it didn't stop me from seeing anything else that was coming out. Watch these movies. Jordan Peele's got Nope coming out. We got a screening of it. It's coming up in a couple of weeks, right?
Next week.
Yeah. So, we're excited, man, for all these films, man. And for that idiot who said that, this might be a light year for the Black Reel Awards, man. Charles, you address him off air and let him know tell him that, there's a long road ahead and we've got a lot of stuff going down. But I really, really enjoyed the trailer for The Woman King. And as I said, I watched it 4 times in a row. And I just love the way whoever, because the person, I would say we should give an award out for people who create movie trailers, because a good movie trailer can get you hyped to see a movie, right? And, you've heard me tell the age-old story is I remember years ago when The Dark Knight was doing its trailers, and they came out with 12 different trailers, which, by the way, didn't tell you anything about the movie, but it just gave you a lot of great shots and thrilling action and voiceovers and things of that nature. A good trailer, well done, does 2 things, Charles. It gets your blood boiled and gets you all excited to see a movie, and it doesn't tell you anything about the movie. A good trailer is designed to do, and I think The Woman King has shown us enough shots, even in a 2+ almost 2.5 minute video. 2.5 minute trailer shows you enough, but it doesn't tell you the story. And I think I can't wait to see how the story unfolds. I think that this will empower a group of women because, this is a story that has long been talked about, documented. Dahomey, of course, which is now Benin, and the fierce warriors that fought there. So The Woman King is great. Gina Prince Bythewood, who, I used to tease a lot. I was like, Gina, you just don't, you're always putting 2-3 years between projects. She just did The Old Guard in 2019. Here we are again, another 3 years has passed. So Gina, you take your time and continue to do what you do. You do it really well. The Woman King, as I said, is in theaters from Sony and on September the 16th. And something tells me, Charles, that is going to be a huge premiere at the Toronto International Film Festival in September. So I'm looking forward to checking that out. Charles, before we move on, well, we are going to move on. Let's move on to another alert that I got last night because I was minding my business. And it was like, hey, man, there's a new Dave Chappelle special on Netflix. And I went, I thought Chappelle retired. So I turned Netflix on last night, and there is a 40 minute?
It was 39 minutes.
Yeah, Dave Chappelle, and it was actually called, because I want to make sure I get this right. It was called, because he literally just filmed this June the 20th. I was like, how is Dave Chappelle still releasing material? And the special was called What's in a Name? Recorded live at Duke Ellington High School, School of Performing Arts here in Washington, D.C. So for us, it has a very local feel, and the stuff that he's talking about was very local when he was telling jokes about Easton High. And I was like, yeah, I know what that is. It wasn't a nice place. It reminded me of the school I went to.
In the 80s. Woohoo!
The school I went to in Newark, New Jersey called Central High. So Eastern and Central are twins. And I couldn't wait to get out of that school. I'm like, I ain't got to go to Central? Bet. Well, I thought again that I'll start, Charles, and I think at this point, Dave Chappelle is one of four faces on my comedic Mount Rushmore. And to be perfectly honest, I don't even have a fourth person yet, but I do have Richard Pryor, I do have George Carlin, and I do have Dave Chappelle. And I don't know who the fourth person would be on that Mount Rushmore, but Dave Chappelle to me has elevated that he's so effortless in everything he does. And he's been telling us for years, starting with his return in 2017 with his first Netflix special, The Age of Spin. Or actually, his first one was deep in the heart of Texas, but it played after The Age of Spin. You remember that?
Right.
So they debuted the 2017 special first, but he had a 2016 special, Deep in the Heart of Texas. But he started telling us then, and we started seeing this new veteran Dave Chappelle, right? 12 years out the limelight since leaving the Chappelle Show. He really goes into it in a way that he may not have, like he's gone through it before, but I think there was a little emotion in him telling that story in front of his alma mater, at his alma mater, and talking to students and people who he was really comfortable with. I think it was probably one of the more personal sort of pieces from Chappelle, even more so than what he did with the Mark Twain, because Mark Twain was still there being honored, and he was able to kind of tell some stories, as he shot away and showed the DC Improv and some other local spots here. But I thought it was deeply personal and he was deeply connected and present as he talked to these folks and alums at Duke Ellington. Did you feel the same thing? Because I remember hearing his voice crack a couple of times when he talked about how hurt he was at the criticism he got when he came back to the school, which I think it took him back. Like, wait a minute, wait, what?
I think that's, I don't think we had this. I think it was you and I had this discussion about why Kevin Durant won't come play in DC. There's something about the honesty that there is here in this city. And if we like you, we like you. When we have a problem with you, we tell you we have a problem with you. And so when, it was, I think this show was intensely personal because he was home, and the criticism that he had gotten around the globe when it came to him from people at home, and in this case, from his home school, it affected him, and it affected him in a way that was more profound than we have seen in the past, where he talked about how he dealt with the criticism. So I thought it was very genuine, very personal, very, very real.
Man, well, let me tell you something, man. I think the thing that was interesting about it was listening to him not just recount in detail some of the experiences he had at the Duke Ellington School, and how, he didn't want to go to another local school in town that we were laughing about earlier called Eastern, and having an opportunity and not feeling that he was good enough. And his answer and his response on when they asked him, why did you want to act? And his answer, which resulted in him getting in, the experiences that he went through, and then taking these folks through a litany of where he was, what happened, the whole, what happened with, he explained it in a way. And I think, Charles, in the explanation now that he gives, is that I think that enough time has elapsed now that Dave can actually step back and really articulate the experience of what he went through in leaving, a $50 million deal on the table, when he told us that he only made $300,000 because he took less money to have more control and input, and for it to be wildly successful. And then to understand and to stand up for his artistic expression and not and understand that he didn't want to compromise that, and he's right. If he would have taken that money at that time, we don't know where Dave's career would have gone, right? He may have been perceived a little differently as somebody who was rich. As he said, people would have probably expected him to act a certain way or a different way. And the fact that he was able to maintain his morals, maintain, his integrity, leave that deal on the table, and then come back, it's almost biblical, man, if you think about it. Like, I lost all of this. I stood up for what I thought was right. And then I come back, and then like in a Job-like experience, I not only got what I lost, but now I've gotten exceedingly more. So I felt that everything that he talked about last night, as you talked about it being deeply personal, because, he was home, he was back in DC, he was at his high school, talking in front of people who helped raise him, people who he was inspired by, and people he inspires. I just thought it was an amazing thing that Netflix would go, yeah, give us that. We'll put that on the channel.
A couple of things. How many times did you see it, Tim? How many times did you watch it?
I only watched it once.
Watched it once. Okay. Well, because I was going to say, I think Dave Chappelle would take umbrance with you when you said the 4 people that you would have on your Mount Rushmore, you couldn't even think of a fourth. You have a fourth person. You just are afraid to say Bill Cosby because Bill Cosby.
No, Bill Cosby wouldn't make my Rushmore, and he wouldn't. No, let me explain. He doesn't make my Rushmore because if you think about the comedians I revere, right? So, and I have a perfect answer for this. So this is not a cop out. I like Lenny Bruce a lot. I think Dick Gregory was fantastic. I like folks who were always edgy, right? So you think about Carlin, you think about Pryor, you think about Chappelle, you heard me talk about Bruce, you heard me talk about Gregory. I like comedians who are, rabble rousers, people who kind of make people uncomfortable. Bill Cosby, when I was young, and I'm keeping it real, the only Bill Cosby that I watched was him as an actor on I Spy, him with Fat Albert, and of course him with The Cosby Show. I was never a huge Bill Cosby fan as him as a comedian. And let me finish. I said, maybe I'm tripping. So one year, Bill Cosby came to the Wolf Trap, got me a ticket, went out to the Wolf Trap. Man, I was so bored watching Bill Cosby sitting in a chair telling stories about Ennis and the rest of his kid. And again, not taking anything away from Bill Cosby, his humor just doesn't speak to me, right? Just like how you and I talk about, like you talked about Norm Macdonald when he passed. Now, Norm Macdonald is funny, right? I will admit Norm Macdonald's funny, but he resonates with you in a way he doesn't resonate with me. And I own that. So as long as I can articulate it, I'm not saying that Bill Cosby's not a great comedian. I didn't grow up listening to his albums. He was doing Spanish Fly bits in the late 60s. When he was doing all of these things, when he was sitting in the chair and tell us, he's not my guy. I'm not a Cosby, I'm not a guy who respected Cosby in that way as a comedian. I love Richard Pryor. That's why I have a Richard Pryor box set that has all of Richard Pryor's CDs. I can tell you all Pryor's jokes. I love George Carlin. I can tell you George Carlin bits. Cosby's not my guy, man. So that's why.
That's a revelation. That's a revelation to me. I don't think I ever knew that about you before. That Cosby was not your guy.
Cosby was never my guy as a comedian, man. He's not.
Everybody else says Cosby is their guy. Richard Pryor said Cosby was his guy. Dave Chappelle said Cosby was his guy. So that's interesting.
Well, you know what's funny when you say that, Charles? Cosby was the inspiration for a lot of guys, at least 2, right? Carlin and Pryor, who both had these acts where they were clean shaven and wearing the suits and trying to be Cosby-like. But I didn't start liking them until they made the change. I never liked smooth, clean cut George Carlin or smooth, clean cut Richie Pryor. I like Richard Pryor. That it is crazy. So that's what I'm saying, man. Not diminishing or trying to be politically correct because of where Cosby is now. You know, I mean, he just was never a guy that moved me. Like I'm like my father never said, man, we got to sneak in and listen to these Bill Cosby albums. He say we need to come and sneak and listen to these Richard Pryor albums. He said that. So go ahead, Charles.
Well, I think that's because Cosby never worked blues, so it wasn't like you had to sneak and listen to Cosby. I mean, he was family friendly. Everybody listened to him. But yeah, you had to sneak and listen to Richard Pryor and Red Fox and all those guys coming up in the day because they were, you know, not the kind of stuff that your mother wanted to hear you listening to. So yeah, I get you. No. Well, let's go back to Chappelle. I want to say, for what we saw, what they gave us, I mean, we know what it was. The purpose of it was they were dedicating this theater to him, to his name, and so the video itself is poorly shot. And I'm gonna have to say this. I mean, there's times when it's out of focus and he's off frame and all kinds of stuff that went wrong with the filming of this. But the delivery of the stories, what Chappelle has to say about artists and how that school grounded him and prepared him for the tough world of show business, it's a fantastic special. He puts more into 39 minutes than some people put into an hour show. And I just love the fact that he stood up there and he said, I'm the best there is right now. And if you don't think so, come at me. And he challenges these students. It's like an inspirational speech as well. Not for them just to look at him, but be you and be great. And if take me out if you have to. So I really enjoyed this special. I thought it was special, and I can't wait to see who has something bad to say about it. Because I'm like, Chappelle isn't like bulletproof, really. I mean, people come for him, and he's like the Teflon Don, and just pew pew, and he just keeps on going. So I think it's an excellent special.
No,
and that's why Netflix rolls with him.
Well, no, I was going to tell you that you're right. Right? It was. Okay, let's start from the beginning. It was never designed to be a piece that would air anywhere. I'm a firm believer that I think they recorded it at Duke Ellington that for the folks who, you know, are either alums or supporters that, you know, we got Dave Chappelle in here. Why Netflix put it on is because, to your point, Dave Chappelle is a master storyteller. Let's keep it real. And his delivery and what he had to say was so powerful. They was like, I know it's dark and we can't see it. Put it on the channel. It has value. And that tells you why he's number 3 on my Mount Rushmore right now. That Chappelle, if he came to your church next week and they said, Chappelle, talk to us about God. And if he did 35 minutes on God in a bad thing with the camera moving, they like, put that on Netflix. Hell is Chappelle, man. My favorite line, to your point, when you were saying that, you know, he was challenging the students and that I'm the best there is, he pretty much said, hey, man, people tell you they discovered Dave Chappelle. He said, that's like discovering the sun. Just shining on these ends. I was like, you are. He is a master. So here's example, right? You talk about Bill Cosby, and one of the things that I used to hear, because it wasn't just you and other comedians, but I had really good friends who were slightly older than me who talked about growing up listening to Bill Cosby albums. And I was always like, didn't work for me. But one of the things that people loved about Bill Cosby was that he was a great storyteller. And I think you look at Richard Pryor and how Pryor sets up stories and tells jokes inside of that dynamic. And George Carlin was another one who was really great at that. Chappelle is a master at it. And the fact that he stood there, I mean, think about this for a second, man. I don't know what his process is, right? Because he's never explained it. I know he had one special where he talked about how he has a punch bowl at his house that he has punchlines in, and he'll pick up a punchline out of the bowl and then try to write a joke to whatever the punchline is, right?
Right.
I think Dave Chappelle, it's not about his longevity, right? Because he talks about, I've been a comedian since I was 14 years old, and he's been doing it for like, what is it, 35 years or something like that now. I don't think it's just his longevity, because there's a lot of comedians that have been around for a long time and ain't really that good, Charles. I think it's his intellect. I think it's his perspective, right? Dave Chappelle, Richard Pryor, George Carlin, and other great ones are the guys that could literally take any situation and find the humor in it. But inside of any situation, their perspective or prism of the world is so broad. And the fact that they can bring something humorous to almost every aspect of society, I think is a gift. And if you look at most comedians, and I'm not saying any names, but you know who all the popular ones are that we watch on Netflix, or people who have had these careers, it ain't something everybody can do. Right. And I get mad sometimes when all you can talk about is your family, or if all you can talk about is this experience that happened to you, or if all you can talk, but when you meet guys that can talk, like Richard Pryor talked about the Black experience in a way that even if you weren't Black, you understood intuitively what he was talking about when he told you stories about the cops. So he talked about Mudbone, or he talked about his own personal struggles, how he was running down Hollywood Boulevard on fire. And that's the other part about what Chappelle does and what every great comedian does, Charles. Now, I'm not telling this to you because you had this path at one point that you wanted to pursue, right?
Right.
But this, I'm just telling you from what I notice about great comedians, right? Great comedians have a wide perception and wide prism or view of life, but they're also able to take their own struggles, articulate them to people, and then also use those to make you laugh. So Chappelle is good at that. He'll tell stories sometimes about how his wife and stuff is going on at home, and I'm sure a lot of it is exaggerated. He loves his wife, man. He's been with his wife, man, for 30 years, man.
Yeah.
But it's funny, and I'm sure they go home and she's like, well, you better stop telling people that stuff. The dude is a master storyteller, man. I say that the way he tells stories and the way he sets up jokes, unparalleled. There's nobody in his peer group right now that's even remotely close to the type of comedy that Dave Chappelle does right now. Charles?
I totally agree. And I have the same experience. When we go out to parties, I come home, my wife will say, don't tell that story about me anymore, about us anymore. But it's just the way I grew up. I watched Cosby, I watched Pryor, I watched Carlin. They just have a way of taking the larger issue and bringing it down to a ground level where everybody can relate. It's like how he talked about the teacher and the stapler. They get your focus and they got you. And so it's all about being able to create that experience where everybody can come together on a common ground and understand what's going on, and they got you. And Chappelle does it so well. I told you the story, man. I went to DC schools until middle school. And one of my dreams was, because Fame had come out, and I wanted to be at Duke Ellington. And when we moved to Maryland schools and I lost the opportunity to go to Duke Ellington, it was crushing to me, because I wanted that experience that he talks about in the show. And it just made it so real for me that I was right there with him the whole time. That the master storytellers, Dave is just up there on, like you said, he is a master at his craft, and he's not shy to tell you that he knows that he's a master at his craft, and nobody can debate it.
I was gonna say, the thing that's funny is that so many of his peers, whether it's Chris Rock, Joe Rogan, Kevin Hart, Cat Williams, I've heard everybody say it, like, Dave's the GOAT, man. Dave's the dude right now. So, and not just right now, Dave's the dude.
He's been the dude ever since he started on the Chappelle Show. I mean, he was doing little parts here and there, gleaning from the masters when he's doing these movies with Chris Rock and Pryor and Eddie Murphy. He's doing all these films. He's gleaning knowledge all the time. And now when he stepped out on and doing the Chappelle Show, and from that point on, he's just been a master at this. Well, he had a special that was it Killing Him Softly that he did before, right about the time the Chappelle Show was about to take it off, and we see it there that he just had, and he talks about how he kills it when he goes out there, and that's what he does. He kills it every time he goes out there.
Killing Him Softly, For What It's Worth, The Age of Spin. I mean, all of these to me are just like masterclasses in comedy. I mean, The Closer, which I thought was really, really good.
I thought it was really, really good.
All right, Charles. So before we get out of here, man, it's now time for the 29th film from the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Of course, that is Thor, Love and Thunder, superhero film based on the Marvel character Thor. Let's see, direct sequel to Thor Ragnarok. As I said, the 29th film in the MCU, written by Taika. How do you pronounce his name?
Taika Waititi.
Thank you. One more time.
Taika Waititi. Taika.
Who co-wrote the script. Chris Hemsworth is back as Thor alongside Christian Bale, Tessa Thompson, Jamie Alexander, Waititi, Russell Crowe, and Natalie Portman. And in this film, Thor attempts to find inner peace, but must return to action and recruit Valkyrie, played by Thompson, Korg, played by Waititi, and Jane Foster Portman, who's now the mighty Thor. Don't say I spoiled it for you, Lamp.
Come on, if you've seen any trailers, that is not a spoiler.
Right. To stop the God Butcher Bale from eliminating all gods, I will start, man, by simply saying that I thought this latest version of Thor shows how Marvel is maturing along with the audience, right? And you think back to the format of how these films were always done, in the early, 2008, and then always up to the last decade. This film starts off with a tone that is very different than how Marvel movies normally starts off. And I was taken aback by, okay, we introduced this character. And I thought it was done in a way that made a lot of sense, because this is a character that, if you read the comics, you were familiar with him. But for general audiences who didn't know who Gore the God Butcher was, they took us, I think, Charles, about 10 minutes to find his motivation, figure out where he is, and then why he's doing what he's doing. And then, of course, we get back to Thor, who, when we last saw him, he was hanging out with the Guardians of the Galaxy, and that's where he is again with Korg. And, the whole back and forth with him and Star-Lord. Can I just say something? Why did it feel to me like the Star-Lord stuff was the stuff that they did last, and like they brought? Did you get that impression that it was just it wasn't tacked on, but like, hey man, we're gonna need you for like a week to do this. Just show up on the set. We'll throw you in the clothes, and you do what you do. That's what, at least, am I wrong?
I think it's the way they put the film together it feels kind of like an afterthought, not really essential to the story, but therefore, I don't know.
Like comic relief or whatever it was, but it felt like it wasn't cohesive with the story. Like the rest of it, once Thor is out and about and he's with his crew, that part of the story, I think, rang a little true. There's a lot of stuff going on in this movie, man, which, I am not probably the best person that can tell the story, but they're Greek gods that show up. There's a lot of ties, and I really get confused sometimes because I talk to people like my good friend here, Charles, or Julian Lytle or Shireen Nicole, who are other contemporaries of mine who've been on this show. who are much more versed in the comic universe than I. I'm still confused when I think about and trying to process watching the film. Like, okay, there's Greek gods over here, we got Egyptian gods over there. Are these supposed to be the same guys? Like Moon Knight has some gods. I'm very confused about the whole god aspect. And this movie really didn't help clear any of this stuff up for me. But I just went with it, right? You get to a point where you're like, I'm just gonna go with it, right? And the Thor part, I thought, I don't think it's not as entertaining as Ragnarok was, but to me, it is better than the first two Thors, Thor and Thor: The Dark World. So I think, to me, if I had to, in going through the story and thinking about what is happening, what transpires, I love the inclusion of Tessa Thompson in the story because I think Valkyrie is a really key character. I think Natalie Portman coming back. I guess this is structurally a part of the comic universe, Charles, of what the mighty Thor represents. Don't think that was really handled as well as all. I'm just gonna cut to the chase, and I would give Thor: Love and Thunder a B. I don't think it's like a B plus, or it's definitely not an A Marvel movie. But I think there are a lot of things in it that feel to me a little uneven, and you've heard me address a couple of them. I thought Christian Bale as God, Gore, the God Butcher. I thought his motivation was sort of clear, but I think, Charles, you're going to talk about this. I love some of the ways that they shot this. Some of the lighting and the choices they made. But my two favorite characters, man, were those two giant goats that I wish I had that. But I would give this movie a B, man. I think it is. He's probably one of the few characters that has had, as a standalone character, that has had 4 movies. I think it's a stretch to say, Charles, that it's one movie too many, but it's definitely not, to me, as good as Thor Ragnarok was, when it was just him and Bruce Banner doing their thing on Ragnarok. But that's me, man. So what did you think about Thor: Love and Thunder?
I gave the film a B minus, and I'll tell you why. I really understand where Taika Waititi has gone in creating this Thor universe, and that how it's rejuvenated some life into Thor, because after the Dark World, it was really people were really thinking that we were going to have to abandon this franchise and what he was doing here. But I think maybe Taika went to the well too many times. I myself am a big fan of the first Thor movie that Kenneth Branagh directed, and because it's, as a comic book purist, I believe that movie stuck so close to the tone that you have in the Thor comic books that it was real to me. Now, this what we have here is more like a comic fantasy that you have going on with, and I really didn't know how to qualify this movie. Is it a comic movie? Is it an action movie? Is it an adventure movie? Is it a rom-com? I think Taika puts too much in there, and it doesn't really balance out as perfectly as it should. I enjoyed a lot of the sequences. I enjoyed a lot of the cameos. They're like dozens of cameos in this film, and there's a special end credit scene that has to be seen. But I miss the Warriors 3, and I'm glad that we got Lady Sif back. But I kind of missed the dark brooding Thor, and I thought when we had Endgame and Infinity War, we started to get that brooding Thor that we had in the first one, and then Taika lightened it up, and I thought maybe we should come back because Thor's lost a lot. He's lost his home, he's lost his family, he's lost a lot, and he even killed Thanos. And so some of these things that should be weighing heavy, and they kind of showed that at the beginning of the movie and then let it go. And so I like the film. It's a lot of fun, but it's really not the Thor that I love, the Thor that I grew up with. So for all those people who are just MCU fans, you're going to like this film. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch. but there's some meat missing in this sandwich, and so I gave it a B minus just to push it because I thought it was good for what it is, but it could have been more.
Did you say meat missing in the sandwich, man?
Yeah. There's some meat missing in the sandwich.
Meat missing in the sandwich. All right. Okay, so you gave it a B minus. I gave it a B. I just thought it was okay. It was just a lot of stuff because my perspective is a little different from yours. So, so there you have it with Thor, Love and Thunder. You can check it out, which gets us really excited pretty soon, Charles, for movie 30. And we talked about it earlier, Black Panther 2, or actually it's called Black Panther Wakanda Forever. Well, or Wakanda Forever, at least until the Woman King gets through being in Wakanda, and then it's Wakanda Forever for you.
Right.
All right, bro.
So the Woman King is Wakanda Returns, and then the Black Panther is Wakanda Forever.
Wakanda Forever. So, but nah, man, we're good, man. Let us get out of here, man. So that is it for us this week. I want to thank you guys for stopping by. And one more shameless plug. If you wanted information on the Lakefront Film Festival, which both of us work on, that's why I'm doing like this. It's Lakefront Film Festival, lakefrontfilmfest.com. And then you can also check us out on all social media platforms at the same at Lakefront Film Fest, at Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. And of course, you can go check out our YouTube page if you Google it. And it's all Lakefront Film Fest all day, all the time. And Charles, on behalf of you, thanks, bro. You be safe as you go and hit the Big Apple this weekend. And as we tell you guys every week, please see something good at the movies. We've given you one recommendation. Not the greatest. It'll work.
But you'll have a good time.
It's like a golf shot that, is a little off to the center. It'll play, but it's not a great shot. You guys take care, and we will see you next week. You enjoy your weekend. Take care.